Hey guys, in this video we're talking about monetary policy with the ASAD model and trying to teach it in a little bit of a new paradigm. Now we already have one video talking about this new paradigm way of teaching monetary policy with this model, doing contractionary monetary policy or restrictive monetary policy. And I think you should go watch that. It'll make this video all the easier to understand, even though I think this video is going to be quite easy to understand as it is, okay? Now, in this video, we're talking about accommodative policy or expansionary/stimulative monetary policy. This is a situation where the Fed wants to stimulate the economy because we are in a recession, all right? So let's get to the model. What you see right off the bat is three AD curves. Normally, when we teach expansionary monetary policy, we just have an original AD curve, and then we shift it to the right, showing expansionary monetary policy. But in this new paradigm, we have an original AD curve. We call it AD sub 0. You might call it AD sub 1. Totally fine, either one. But you have an original AD curve, but then you have two more AD curves, okay? You have an AD R star and an AD targeted rate. Well, let's talk about R star first, okay? R star is the neutral interest rate, okay, or the long run natural rate of interest. Basically, it's an interest rate that in the long run should not create any more inflationary pressure, shouldn't increase the inflation rate, nor decrease the inflation rate, and also not increase the unemployment rate or decrease the unemployment rate. Basically, think of that term, neutral rate of interest. It's an interest rate where the Fed is not being accommodative or we'd say stimulative or expansionary, nor is it being restrictive or contractionary. It's where the Fed is being neutral towards the economy. That's the R star rate. Now, in this situation, we're doing accommodative or stimulative/expansionary monetary policy. So our targeted rate is below the R star rate. That's right. The Fed has a federal funds rate. And by the way, the federal funds rate is the rate we're talking about. It's their policy rate. It's a short-term interest rate by which the Fed tries to transmit their interest rate changes to the rest of the economy. You know, home loans, car loans, small business, medium-sized business, whatever. Even treasury notes, okay, is how they try to transmit interest rate changes to the rest of the economy. It's through this thing called the federal funds rate, which is their policy rate. And I've got a target rate for that federal funds rate that is below the neutral rate. So they're being stimulative. Under this targeted rate, AD is going to shift out by more than it would if we went with the neutral rate or the R star rate, right? We're trying to get more economic growth than we would get with the neutral rate. And we're going to get a higher inflation rate with this targeted rate than the neutral rate, which is okay because when we fall into a recession, if we went into a recession when we had already had our target of 2%, there's a good chance the inflation rate has gone below target, so we do want the inflation rate to go back up. And take a real quick look with this targeted rate, the price level is going to go up by more, so you just take the delta between these two price levels, divide it by the original price level, and that would be your inflation rate, which is going to be higher than, again, if we went that R star rate, because price level would not go up by as much. And you can just see these price level R star and price level target rate, they tie to the equilibriums associated with each of the respective AD curves. So again, this is showing stimulative policy, a targeted rate below the neutral rate of interest. Now let's put some actual numbers with these rates, okay? Now I'm going to talk about R star in nominal terms. You generally want to talk about R star in real terms, but just for right now, I'm going to talk about it in nominal terms. So just take the real R star, the real rate of interest that R star is talking about, and add on the inflation rate. And let's say the nominal R star is around 3.5%, and the Fed goes with a targeted rate of 1%, okay? So definitely they're being accommodative, right? They're being expansionary. They're trying to get that AD curve, that total spending curve, to increase by more. Now, under this new paradigm, which I also like about it, is that we can be very nuanced with our students. We could have a situation where the Fed goes to, say, a 1% targeted rate, which would be quite expansionary if the R star was 3.5, okay? And then what they could do is they could increase interest rates. And when they increase interest rates, we wouldn't have to just shift AD off to the left. What we could do is just see AD as not shifting out by as much, okay? You would still see ADTR to the right of R star. So again, we could have the Fed become less accommodative, less expansionary, right? Less stimulative by raising their targeted rate. However, we could still communicate that they are being accommodative in total, right? That they're still below the R star. So just to say it again, to make it clear, okay? R star, 3.5 in nominal terms, the targeted rate 1%, and then they go to say 1.25 targeted rate. Instead of just saying, okay guys, shift your AD curve to the left, we're doing contractionary policy now, we can say, no, we're still doing accommodative policy. We're still trying to stimulate the economy. We're just going to be less accommodative, less stimulative. And we would just, instead of having AD shifting by as much, have it shifting out by less. Now we bring more nuance to our classroom. Hey, the Fed still has an accommodative stance right now, just not as accommodative as it once was. Look, here's the thing, guys. There was twice in my teaching career that we've taken the federal funds rate down to zero. It was during the Great Recession and then again during COVID. And at some point in both of those situations, the Fed lifted interest rates off of zero, right? Went up to like 0.25 to 0.5 as a range for the federal funds rate, lifting us off of zero. And my students would often interpret that as, hey, we're now doing contractionary monetary policy. And I wanted to tell my students, and I did tell my students, guys, we're not doing contractionary monetary policy. We're just being less stimulative, less accommodative, okay? By lifting it up by 1/4 of 1 percentage point is not becoming contractionary when you are already at a very low targeted rate. This new way of teaching it, guys, in reference to this ADR star allows for so much more nuance. Anyhow, I hope this starts a discussion on how we can teach this better, how we can teach monetary policy better using this model. Hope that made sense to you. We'll see you in the next